Today we're going to talk about sexual assault in hockey. This project is done by Luke Foss, Tyson Sadner. We research sexual assault in hockey, where we tend to ask the question, why does sexual assault keep reoccurring even though people know that it is unjust? Here we just have the table of contents of our presentation.
And yeah, for the first slide here, I'm going to be talking about is misconceptions related to sexual assault. So the first point I want to make here is that sexual assault only happens to women. That is something that isn't true, as we found in our research. Lots of people within the hockey world, it happens to lots of men out there, and it's equally just the same. It can happen to anyone, women or men. And another point I want to add on to that is that anybody is vulnerable. It doesn't really matter your age, your race, or your gender. It can happen to anyone in any situation, and it's oftentimes unexpected. So that's a misconception. And the next point is that sexual assault doesn't happen to successful people, athletes. As we found, especially two different cases about Theo Fleury and Kyle Beach. They were victims of sexual assault, and it's traumatized them for their whole life up till now still. The recovery still is going on, and it's something that doesn't go away. So I just think it can happen to truly anyone, and in any situation as well. It can be either the workplace or in a sports environment, or just in your day-to-day life, being out and about, or even in your own house or anywhere. So those are some common ones that I wanted to point out.
And then we were surprised after doing our research that by the fact that once sexual assault was brought to the attention to others, including higher up management in some hockey organizations, that it was not handled properly, and it was even ignored in some cases. That case, especially by the Chicago Blackhawks with the Kyle Beach incident. Some essay information. We learned that there really isn't much coverage of sexual assault covered in the news or recorded where it becomes a headline, thus does not raise awareness. This is really crucial because although there are only 4 major news headlines about sexual assault in hockey, it is hard to believe that there are not more out there where people have not yet come forward. And being able to come forward and talk about it is huge in getting the information out there and awareness out there. Some more essay information. We learned that power is something that people take advantage of to harm others. People are often scared to speak out about sexual assault. The trauma of sexual assault is lifelong lasting. Another point is that sexual assault can happen to anyone at any level of stature. And then the final point there is that we as future educators must teach more about consent. I think that part there, the last point, is absolutely huge. There's one incident of sexual assault in the hockey world where they kind of supposedly, through the reports, thought that they had consent, but they disagreed in the report afterwards.
All right, and for a big source that we looked at throughout this project was about Kyle Beach. He got sexually assaulted, and he relied on substances as a coping mechanism. He just didn't know how to deal with the trauma and the aftermath of it. So he led to substances to help ease the pain. And it is also important to take allegations of abuse and assault seriously. One thing was that his NHL team was too focused about winning a Stanley Cup, and they just denied what happened and did not address the problem, even when he confronted people that were involved and leadership groups. So that's something that should never happen, and it should never be pushed aside like that. And the next point is that it is important for victims to have support throughout the entire process, including the long-term effects. So this is when, yeah, support systems come into play. It's not something that just ends and gets put behind you. It's a long recovery, and it truly maybe never will end. And it is important for assailant to be held accountable for their consequences, both within the sports community and in general society. So, yeah, we got to be accountable for our actions, and the right things need to be put forward.
Just as another point to add on to that, after the in a tweet after the incident had been settled in court, the Blackhawks' first tweet involved talks about making organizational changes, but the first mention in the tweet, however, was about winning hockey games and championships instead of the safety of their players, which I thought was honestly still sickening after what they had just been through, what Kyle himself had been through, and the fact that that was 10 years later, and it kind of seems like they still haven't learned their lesson, and their only concern is winning hockey games and championships is really saddening.
And the next source that we looked at was about Theo Fleury. And yeah, the coach's authority holds significant power and influence, especially in young and vulnerable athletes. So yeah, it's like your career can be jeopardized. They have the power. They give threats that they have the power. So it's up to them and up to you to make that choice. And they make it that you don't want to come out and say what happened. And it is also very important that students and athletes have someone that they feel safe to talk to about in all matters in life, such as counselors and others that are close with them. That's support systems. It's a huge thing. You can't keep it cooped up inside you, and need to speak out about it. And also, athletes may feel at the mercy of their coaches due to their influence on experiences, playing time, or training.
uh, Power used in sexual assault, ways that power uh, is used in sexual assault may be done by coaches using their position of influence to create a culture of silence and fear. Coaches may also use their connections within the sports world to intimidate victims and suppress allegations after the fact. And then the final point there is they may use their position to manipulate or groom players, which escalates to even more serious sexual behavior.
And how will we use this information as future educators? So, as future educators, we can educate students about healthy relationships, consent, and boundaries. This can help them resist abusive behavior and foster a culture of respect and safety. So, I think, yeah, consent's a big thing that we need to get away from the stereotype of they didn't say no, instead, did they say yes during sexual altercations? And yeah, things like substance abuse and can be a big factor. So we need to teach people how to deal with these situations and how it should be put forward and not just put behind us.
And yeah, that is it. Thank you very much.